Here with Mike with Tuesday Talks with Mike.
Good morning, folks. I'm here with the Hound of Horror to talk about horror. Last night I was watching The Pope's Exorcist. It's a good movie. And I was halfway through before I realized that the guy playing the Pope's Exorcist was Russell Crowe, the great actor who starred in Gladiator. I couldn't believe it. He deserves an Oscar nom for this performance, but of course he's not going to get an Oscar nom because the Academy seldom recognizes genre films like horror. The people, however, love horror. My darling wife Anne asked me, how can you watch this stuff? Well, we all know the answer to that is we love being scared shitless with our entertainment because we know ultimately that it's not going to harm us. It's not real. We can walk out of the movie. We can turn off the TV. We can fold the novel and set it aside, and we can close the comic book and come back to it later. People love horror. They love to feel the frisson of supernatural terror on their spine, which is the kind of horror I like, and I think which most horror aficionados like. I'm not talking about splatter movies or torture porn, movies like Saw or Hostel. I'm not interested in those. They're about very human people who are sick, ripping up other human people and splashing blood all over. I'm not interested in blood. I'm interested in that supernatural frisson of terror. And one of the greatest examples of that is the black and white version of The Haunting, Sheila Jackson's unforgettable novel about a group of parapsychologists who inhabit a mansion that is said to be haunted by ghosts of the past. There's not a drop of blood in that movie. In fact, it's a black and white movie. It's done entirely with suggestion and with sound. People don't understand the importance of sound in your horror entertainment unless you think about it. The reason movies and novels are the most successful mediums for horror is because a movie controls pacing, lighting, and most importantly, sound. When you watch a movie like The Exorcist or or The Pope's Exorcist, you become aware of how important sound is to eliciting an emotional reaction. I've always loved horror. I've written 3 horror novels. Banshees is about a satanic rock band that comes back from the dead. Scorpio is about a ghost who only appears under a blazing sun. Domain is the ultimate haunted house story. I also have written my share of horror graphic novels. I'm proudest of this. The Architect is a supernatural tale inspired by the life of Frank Lloyd Wright. My dad knew Frank Lloyd Wright. My dad worked at a big men's department store in Madison, Wisconsin. One day, Mr. Wright came in and said, "Lee, I understand you want to build a house. I would be happy to design that for you." And my father, being no fool, said, "Thank you, Mr. Wright. I'll let you know." Because even then, Wright had a reputation for running wildly over cost. Years later, my sister said that he ended up letting Wright design her bedroom. So I'm looking forward to seeing that room the next time I return to Madison. I am currently funding Bronze Star, which is the greatest work of Pat Broderick's career, and that's saying something. And the reason I wrote this supernatural Western is because I asked Pat, what do you want to draw? He said, I want to draw a supernatural Western. Thus, Bronze Star was born. The reason the sheriff wears a bronze star and not silver is because silver creates problems for him. Now, I'm not going to elaborate on that except to say I'm not giving away the greatest horror in the story. That's just part of the story. Novels and movies are the best mediums for horror. The reason novels succeed is because a skilled wordsmith can draw you into a world so completely that you forget you're experiencing an entertainment. You enter into that world completely. You're living it in the hands of a master. Like Edgar Allan Poe, Stephen King, or Robert R. McCammon, you inhabit that world and you believe every word they tell you. King is perhaps, well, there's no question, the most successful horror writer of all time. And while I think he's flagged recently with many of his books, it's obvious he's getting paid by the word, or at least it seems so. His early classics will endure forever, most notably The Shining and The Stand. And if you like The Stand, you should read Robert R. McCammon's Swan Song, which is very similar to The Stand, only better in my opinion. There are so many horror novels being published today, it's hard to keep up with them. But the thing about a horror novel is you start reading it and you'll know within a chapter or two whether you want to continue. The author either has the gift or he doesn't. In movies, horror is one of the most popular genres there is because even a lousy horror movie makes money. There's just a huge demand for them. And as soon as it's finished its theatrical run, if any, it'll go straight to streaming. A lot of horror movies do go straight to streaming. I know several people who have done horror movies. They wrote them themselves, they filmed them themselves, and some of them are not bad. I don't have a list in front of me, but I'm pleased to know these people. And I understand that the genre will be with us forever. Horror series on television are not as good. I watched several seasons of American Horror Story, and while I admire its ambition and some of the frisons it raised, the serial is not the best element for horror because it leaves you hanging at the end of each episode, and then you got to tune in next week. The best horror envelops you completely so that you enter into that world without a break until you come out the other side. And that's one of the reasons I like horror, and I know that you like horror. So here's to all forms of horror entertainment: the movie, the novel, and the graphic novel.
All right. Very great. Very good explanation of horror novels. And give us ideas of other topics you would like to see or have Mike talk about. Appreciate any thumbs up, subscribe, ring the notification bell, those type of things. And any words of wisdom to leave your audience at this point.
Well, I said it before, but it always bears repeating. Whenever you go out, always take a hat.
Mike has been known for wearing hats inside. In fact, I'm surprised you're not wearing a hat this morning.
I know. My hats are over there on top of the stereo.
Okay. We need to cut Mike's hair, but that's another topic. All right. Well, appreciate you listening and watching. Thanks so much.